Hi, everybody. I'm Glen Kennedy with my co-host Charles Mott.
Glad to be here today.
Welcome back to Barn Talk. How you doing this morning,
Oh,
Charles?
it's a good day. I went to Catalina this week. It's lovely over there, too.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. So we had a wonderful time. Everybody should go on that trip, shouldn't they? Take the boat out of
100%.
Newport or somewhere and go over there and enjoy it. It's a beautiful place.
What would you like to talk about today, Charles?
I'd kind of like to talk about the washes today and the park over there.
With the Cortez?
Cortez Park, yeah.
Okay,
There's a lot of history there we need to talk about.
So, what I do know about Cortez, it was owned by Harvard, O.D. Harvard, I think.
Yes.
He's got a street named after him there on the north side of the freeway off Garvey, in between Lang and Conlin. It's a Harvard Street. He owned that property, and the city bought it from him, and he had like a little ranch on there, and that became our first fire department.
Oh, okay, yes.
And then the rest of it became Cortez Park, and geez, that was probably about 1950, 1951.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was our first park.
Yes.
That was that West Covina did. Everybody used to go to Covina Park, right?
That's right. They
Yeah.
went to Covina, and that's where they all went. So
Yes.
we
and
needed
and
our-
Baldwin Park had Morgan Park.
Yes, and they had 2 swimming pools at one time, Baldwin Park.
Yeah, that's where I
Yeah.
learned to swim. Is at the Baldwin Park Plunge.
Yes, we all went
Yeah,
there.
and then they opened up the pool here at Edgewood High School.
Mhm.
I told you that we were I got to go there the day it opened.
No, that'd be
Yeah,
exciting.
it was pretty cool. So
Yeah.
we had to wait in line. Remember back then, nobody had any pools. If you had a pool, you were the king of the street.
Oh, you were? Yes, you sure were.
And when that thing opened, we went there. We waited in line, and the line I remember went all the way to the corner of Orange and Merced, and we were like, we got there early. We got there real early, so we were first in line. That was quite a treat. I'll tell you what, that was quite a treat
I
back
bet
then.
it was, yeah. They sure started digging pools after that.
Yes.
So. West Covina, it almost became a swamp. So
Yeah, so that's where our first park came in at, and I know there was a culvert down there.
yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't know too much. What do you know about?
Well,
that?
okay. So what
I
I do know is that the West Covina was notorious for flooding out,
very much. So.
and I know the Dancer brothers, who were original settlers of West Covina, both the brothers dredged out the Walnut Creek and kind of like built the first makeshift wash.
Yes.
And well, you would know something about that. How it was built out of telephone poles and bamboo and
Yeah.
rocks. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
Charles?
What they did is they took teams of horses, mules, and they had a long plow. You might say a piece of metal they made into kind of like a shovel, and they'd pull it along, and they'd kind of just take the sand and push it up on shore, you might say, or up the hill. And then when they got a deep enough gully and they got enough of the dirt out of there, or sand, they put in 2 poles on each side of the wash, steel poles, wooden poles, and they were about the 2 on, let's say on the left side, were about 2 feet apart. And they put them in the deep. Boy, they put them deep too. They drove them in, and then they filled that with any rock, and then they put sand as they were filling them, so it kind of compacted real nice and tight. And they did that on both sides. That made your wash. And then they planted bamboo. Bamboo was planted years before that to try to contain it, but it didn't work out. And the bamboo would stop the dirt from caving in on the sides back into the wash, kind of like you would on a hill. You put a lawn, and it was real successful. But when the water got kind of down to sunset, it would eventually go over the wash and head towards kind of where the city hall is, head towards Baldwin Park. It washed that out, and of course when it got to Orange Avenue, it just seemed like it'd come over Orange Avenue like it wasn't even there. So eventually they were going to have to do something. And one thing about it, the city, the farmers in the area all chipped in to pay for it. The county didn't seem to give too much interest in West Covina at that time. They were more interested in building the dams farther up so they'd stop the water from coming down altogether, but that wasn't too successful either. But eventually we got her under control with the concrete. That was the final. But it was a real concern because if you lose your land, you lost your income. And so I kind of think both that particular time, the farmers or the people here, which were only farmers, they kind of all pulled together and got some bonds passed. There really was not any type of government that would come in and help you even after the flood. So you tried to prevent the floods or any damage to your property before it happened. So it was kind of a team effort. And I think that sometimes makes a pretty darn good city. You know about they used to come from the Olympic boxing and load our trucks with sand.
Yes.
Yeah, and I imagine they brought some of them out to shovel sand and everything to build up their muscles. But I wasn't around then, so I don't know that.
So when did they concrete in the washes? I know what we spoke earlier, one of our earlier segments. I remember Joe Hurst telling me when he was the mayor, Walt Disney came here and he did that whole thing. He sat at this table and Joe was more concerned about concreting in the washes. And that was in the early 50s. So
Yes.
when did they actually fill them in, Charles?
I think they did about 65. They finished them. They were at least the Sunset. The Sunset Bridge burnt down. They tried to remove it. They said it was unsafe, and that was about in about 54, 55. And as they were taking it down, the bamboo caught fire, and it burnt down. So they made it just into up and down. You go down and up. So about 1965, they were concreting it in, and once they got it concreted in, that pretty well solved the problem.
Yeah. So the Sunset Bridge burned down.
Yes.
What about the bridge right here on Merced and Orange? What happened to that?
They just tore it down, I
They
believe.
tore it down.
Yeah, it wasn't a very big bridge like Sunset. Sunset was a major bridge.
Now I know they redid the bridge on Branca, and I know the one on Azusa actually collapsed.
Yes, it actually collapsed.
It was in I think 65, 66, somewhere around there. It collapsed. It was the old trestle type bridge.
Yeah.
I think somebody hit one of the pylons and it collapsed.
Yeah, they were. I think by then most of them had lived out there. They were getting pretty old, and of course they'd been in a long time too. And engineering had changed, and of course that wash really filled right up. Now I know the height of it is about the same. It could be a little deeper, but it used to overflow. It just didn't wash a bank out. It overflowed.
Yeah.
And it overflowed and wiped out where the city yard was. It just came over the banks at one time, and not with the concrete, with the wiring. So that's a lot of water coming down that wash.
Yeah. So I wanted to also mention the Dancer brothers. So they don't get a lot of credit. They did a lot of stuff here in turn of the century in the early 1900s. And did you ever meet them? Did you ever know them?
No, but I did know the King family, and he worked for the Water and Power, and I know he did a lot of engineering down in our area on California and Sunset and Orange, and probably farther up too on Glendora. And he helped them design a lot of that. So, but I did not know him. No, I did not.
Yeah, we're going to have to. They're very important to this, the development of this community in the early stages. We're going to have to do we'll have to do some research on the Dancer family and do a segment on them.
They were very important people in our community.
Extremely,
very important.
yes.
And there are a lot of important people that helped out when the time came, because we were the farmers, or the people here, they were really on their own out here. It was a long ways from Los Angeles, and I'm not saying they didn't care, but they had their own problems in Los Angeles with water, and so the county had big problems. So it was really up to the local people to dig in and find people to help out. and solve some of these problems. Because when these bridges start washing out, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a problem. And of course, as it got farther down, it got pretty bad when it dropped along the 605 freeway into those rivers, because that was already filled up with water.
Yeah.
So,
well, the city, it's still just part of West Covina, and on the other side of the freeway, Baldwin Park, all the way San Maria Road, it still floods out.
Yes, it does.
It still floods out.
There are people there suffer when there's heavy rain.
I know one of our friends, Bill Salazar, who owns Royal Coaches Towing, his office, when it rains, he's under a foot of water.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, unbelievable that in this day and age it still floods out.
And there's still a pretty big wash that goes through there too,
Yeah.
right down the street from them. And well, remember Mrs. Brennick said they had to get out. The circus did along the riverbanks. It was flooding.
Yeah.
Walked all the animals.
Well, that was before they thought the dam was going to break.
Yeah, that's right.
They thought the dam was going to break. That was what, 1938?
38, yeah. And it didn't break, but we experienced this rains here where it just kept raining and raining and raining and raining for weeks. And the walnut trees leaned over.
Yeah.
So, but we'll do a special and keep on the rivers and canals. I think it's very important.
Yeah. So, getting back to Cortez and the park and the first fire station there. So, the Cortez family.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it related to the dynasty?
I think they are, don't you?
I really don't have much history on them.
No, there isn't much. There isn't too much. But I think
I thought you knew.
No, no, they were farther up Covina. Farther closer Covina. They were right there, by McIntyre Square. That's where I thought.
Yeah, because I know back then people in the city had some pull because they have that old holster cannon in there, and I think the American Legion got that somehow, and it's still there.
Yes, still there.
It was used during the Second World War. It's just like at Palmview Park, that airplane.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that was it's still owned by the Air Force.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's owned by the California Air National Guard. No, they concreted it in, and it was actually that plane held the world's record. Was the fastest plane in the world at one time.
Oh, that's right.
And they made a park around it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty cool. But you had to have some type of connection.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yes, I actually, when I was dealing, I knew the girl. Her name was she was in charge of that, and I used to deal with her all the time. Because we have to paint that. We have to get everything from the airports. Mm-hmm. Very nice lady. She passed away. I just want to say that she was a very, very nice lady. But yeah, so the Air Force or the Air National Guard still owns that today.
Yes, and we got to give when on this wash, I just remembered a while back when we were talking about it that they brought the nurses out from the county from Los Angeles, and that was the first time, and they were all young girls or women, and because you got to remember that wash was full of snakes, and glass. So they always had nurses on hand, and I heard that these were probably the nurses that went off to the first war also, and they were always there for medical help to help anybody. Because it sounds simple, but it was dangerous work with the horses and the plows and all the debris that could come down, and the snakes.
Yeah,
the snakes were very prevalent along that wash area, and we used to hear them, but I don't think we ever did. Well, I used to tell my brother, "What is that noise over there?" My brother used to tell me it's a rainbird working. Yeah. I said, "There are no rainbirds down here," so you never knew. So
just like the fire truck. Remember the fire truck at Covina Park?
Oh yes, yes.
So whatever happened? They replaced that with a fake one with a plastic
yeah,
one.
They did. I like the old
When I was
fire
a kid,
truck.
that was a real old,
real old fire truck.
Real old fire truck. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes. The old things. I always enjoyed that airplane you were talking about, and the old fire truck.
Yeah.
You know,
That had the Camino Park had the fire engine, and it had the rocket. You used to climb the rocket and go down the slide.
Yeah.
You know, the Morgan Park had like a pumpkin carriage from Cinderella.
Yeah, I remember that. So,
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's something.
So okay, well with that, we'd like to say thank you, and we'll catch you next time. You have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming and listening to us.